Janamanaloba Korangera Rotiksoba Jagajanamanabalova Korangera Rotiksoba Jagajanamanabalova 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 Kibadaki Nitaya Chan Maningadadara Dhananjaya. Is Dhananjaya there? You have to put on the board so everyone can say the words. Kivadaki nitaya jan banmingadadara Nikate Advaita Shini Vasachatadara Nikate Advaita Shini Vasachatadara Jayo Jaya Gora Chande Arati ke soba Diva jayo Jaya Gora Chande Arati ke soba Janavita Tavane Jagajanamanabalova Janavita Tavane Jagajanamanabalova Kibaboshi Nidayata Manenata Singh Kibaboshi Nachingorachan Ratna Singha Sane Aroti Kore Na Brahma Adi Deva Gane Aroti Kore Na Brahma Adi Deva Gane Jayo Jaya Gorachan Arati Keshane Jayo Jaya Gorachande Arati Keshobha Janavita Tavane Jagajanamanabalova Janavita Tavane Jagajanamanabalova Kibanara Adi Gori Shamara Udaya Kibanara Hariyadi Kori Shamara Dulaya Sanjaya Mukunda Vasu Dosa Adigaya Sanjaya Mukunda Vasu Dosa Adigaya Shankar Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Majikaratala Jiva Shankar Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Majikaratala Madhura Nidanga Bhaje Madhura Gridanga Bhaje Paramarasara Shankha Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Madhur Bhaje Shankha Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Madhur Bhaje Madhur Bhaje Madhur Bhaje Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. The words Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kiba Bahu Koti Chanda Jini Vadana Ujvala Kiba Bahu Koti Chanda Jini Vadana Ujvala Kala Deshe Vana Mala Kari Jala Mala Kala Deshe Kiba Shiva Sukhanarada Preme Gada Gada Kiba Shiva Sukhanarada Preme Gada Gada Makati Vinoda Deke Gurara Sampada Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Bola Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yashodanandana Gopala, 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 Yashodanandana Gopala, 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 Yashodanandana Gopala, Bhaja Gopala. Bolo Gopala, Gopala, Yashodanandana Gopala, Bhaja. Chant, chant. Hey, Bolo Gopala, Gopala, Yashodanandana Gopala, Bolo. Gopala, Gopala, Yashodanandana Gopala. Hey, Bolo Gopala, Gopala, Yashodanandana Gopala. Bolo Gopala, Gopala, Yashodanandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Yashodanandana Gopala. Bolo Gopala, Gopala, Yashodanandana Gopala. Bolo Bolo Gopala, Gopala, Yashodanandana Gopala. Bolo Bolo Gopala, Gopala, Yashodanandana Gopala. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jai Gaur Premanandi ki jai, Govardhan Puja ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Haribo. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadayane. Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadayane. Yanyakashipur Bhakshahai Shilatam Kanakalaye Yanyakashipur Bhakshahai Shilatam Kanakalaye Ito Nishinga Bhadato Nishinga Yato yato yahamita do nishinha. Yato yato yahamita do nishinha. Paye nishinha, hidaye nishinha. Paye nishinha, hidaye nishinha. Narashinamadim Saranam Prapade. Tavakarakammalabade Nakam Adbhuta Singam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubingam Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare, Jaya Jagadesha Hare, Jaya Jagadesha Hare. Keshavadita Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare, Jaya Jagadesha Hare, Jaya Jagadesha Hare. Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare, Jaya Jagadesha Hare, Jaya Jagadesha Hare. Bolo Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare, Jaya Jagadesha Hare, Jaya Jagadesha Hare. Jaya Narasinghadev, Jaya Narasinghadev, Narasinghadev, Jaya Narasinghadev. Jaya Narasinghadev, Jaya Narasinghadev, Jaya Narasinghadev, Jaya Narasinghadev. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Bola Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, Haribo, Gora Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, Nitai Gora Premanande Ki Jai. Shingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to the Govardhan Puja. Govardhan is a mountain that is in the Vrindavan area. It's there today. It was there 5,000 years ago, and it's been there for millions of years. And one day, the father of Krishna, or the stepfather of Krishna, Nanda Maharaj, who was a farmer and an agriculturalist, he decided to worship Lord Indra. At least once a year, the farmers would worship Lord Indra because their whole economic base was based on farming and having grass for their cows, so you can't do that without rain. And Indra was in charge of the rain. He controls rain and rivers and things like that. So Nanda Maharaj was preparing to do that special yagya for Lord Indra. And his son, Krishna, who was only 7 years old at the time, pleaded with his father, "Please don't do this, Daddy." So Nanda Maharaj was shocked. "What do you mean, don't do this? We do this every year. We're farmers. We need the rain. Our whole economy is based on it. And we have to have grass and feed for our cows. And we have to grow our vegetables and our flowers. We can't do that without rain. It depends on Lord Indra." And Krishna said, "I don't think Lord Indra is so important." His father was surprised. He said, "Well, what do you want us to do? You don't want us to do that?" He said, "No, instead of worshiping Lord Indra, we should worship Govardhan." He said, "Govardhan? Govardhan's a gigantic rock. How can you worship Govardhan? And by the way, there's nothing in the Vedas about worshiping Govardhan." He said, "That's all right, Daddy, but you should still do it." He said, "No, why? Okay, look, if you insist on it, we'll worship Lord Indra and we'll worship Govardhan." He said, "No, there's no need to worship Lord Indra. Just do Govardhan." So they went back and forth, and Krishna used different arguments He even used mundane philosophy, not transcendental philosophy, to convince his father. Eventually, his father became convinced reluctantly, and he said, okay, if we're going to worship Govardhan, can you explain to us how to do it? It's never been done before. He said, yeah, it's very easy, Dad. You bring the cows, you bring the brahmanas, and you invite all the villagers to bring mounds and mounds, gigantic mounds of food, and we'll offer it to Govardhan. He said, how can a mountain eat food? He said, Dad, please don't argue. Just believe me. So Nanda Maharaj sent out messengers, and they informed all the villagers, and there were hundreds of villagers in the Vrindavan area, and they started cooking, and especially milk sweets. The whole economy of Vrindavan is based on milk. Okay, we have to keep quiet, please. Let's not talk. Everyone, please keep quiet. If you have something really important that's going to be shattering for the universe, do it outside. So, Krishna explained, and then he said, then when everything is ready and all the prasadam is ready to offer to Govardhan, then the brahmanas will chant the Vedic mantras, and the people will chant Hare Krishna, and they will lead the cows. The cows are decorated with the gold-plated horns and beautiful ornaments and jewels and beautiful cloth on them, and they will have a big procession around Govardhan. Govardhan is 26 miles in circumference. Tonight in Govardhan, there are at least half to 750,000 people circumambulating Govardhan tonight. And all along the way, there are tons of sweets and all kinds of savories and all kinds of food, so that no one goes hungry. And Krishna said, and then once the prasadam is offered to Krishna, he'll offer it, once the food is offered to Krishna, he'll offer it back as prasadam, and then we should distribute to everyone, including the animals, including even the snakes that are on the Govardhan mountain. Everyone should be fed. So this is what you call universal love of God. And when you love God, you love everyone, because everyone, all human beings, all animals, all plants, all aquatics, all birds, all insects, they all come from Krishna. He is the original father. Aham bija pradapita, he says in Bhagavad Gita 14th chapter. I'm the seed-giving father of all living entities. So, and Govardhan Puja does not discriminate amongst the castes. Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and Sudras, and the Brahmacharis, Grihastas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis. They're all equally treated, and because of that, in the Vedic system, they all cooperate with each other, and everyone makes spiritual advancement. That's called Varnashram Dharma, where there's no discrimination. There are different duties that people have, but they all cooperate to worship Krishna. So Krishna is the center of all the concentric centers of interest. So if you have concentric circles, there's no dissection, there's no cutting into each other, so there's harmony. But if people have different centers of interest, like someone says, I am Telangana, another person says, I'm Andhra, another person says, I'm Bengali, another person says, I'm Bangladeshi, like that. Well, there's definitely going to be problems, because they'll both want the same thing at the same time, and then they get into a fight, right? But when they have the same center of interest, and the supreme center of interest is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedaischa sarviraham eva vedya, Krishna says, and I am to be known by the Vedas. And when we study the Vedas and come to the conclusion, Baharam janmanam ante gyanavamam prapadyante vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurvalvaha. Vasudeva sarvamiti. Krishna, you are everything for me. So when people come to that consensus understanding of their relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then there's peace, then there's happiness, then there is prosperity, and everybody makes spiritual advancement, so at the end of life they can remember Krishna and go back to Godhead. So because people don't understand that they have an eternal soul. They think, I'm just this body. And it's normal to be born and suffer in the womb, and then to be born, and when everyone is born crying, and then to grow up and have to struggle for existence in the material world. Everybody is struggling for existence because everyone is competing. Everyone has their own center of interest, and therefore there's vicious competition in the material world all the time, and it's a struggle to pay the bills. It's a struggle to deal with the pandemic. It's a struggle to deal with politics and so forth. So it's not an easy thing. And the hardest thing is the raising children and to keep them on track to become good persons, because there's so much negative instruction nowadays in the schools, the critical race theory, this theory, that theory, so many theories that mislead people with misinformation. So, Krishna being the center of the concentration of the devotees and the meditation of devotees, everyone develops wonderful qualities because Krishna is a wonderful person, the most wonderful person. And therefore they become tolerant, they become clean, they become very knowledgeable, they become very merciful and self-controlled, and they direct their service to please the Lord. So when we use our senses and our body to please the Lord, we become spiritually elevated. And our senses become purified, and with purified senses, you're able to actually see Krishna, hear Krishna, and be always in an ecstatic state of mind, contemplating the beautiful form of the Lord. And here's the beautiful form tonight. You can see it, how beautiful he is. And with Radharani, his eternal consort, and the gopis and the gopas, it is idyllic life in the spiritual world, and everyone can attain it if they are not duped by the weapons of mass distraction, such as cell phones, internet, computers, television, movies, junk books, junk philosophies, junk politics, and so forth. All these things distract the mind of people, and they can't focus on God. The one thing that if they focus on, they will be completely successful in this life, and at the moment of death, remember God and go back to Godhead and have eternal life. No more material body, no more body-to-body relationships. We can attain, even in this life, soul-to-soul relationships with Krishna and with each other. When you just base everything on the body, if something goes wrong with the body, then people lose their interests. And they become frustrated. And that body is destined to die also, to get old and get sick. But when you understand, I'm not this body, I'm an eternal soul, and I have an eternal relationship with Krishna, he is my origin. And therefore, I actually belong with Krishna. I don't belong in this material world. But I can function in the material world, even become purified by practicing Krishna consciousness, especially two things. If you do, you become purified. One, you chant Hare Krishna, 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And second, you take prasadam. Prasadam is food offered to Krishna. One time I did a ceremony in one house, and after the ceremony, the lady of the house said, "Oh, Prabhu, now come and have some prasad." I said, "Oh, okay. Did you cook?" She said, No, we got it from the restaurant. I said, "What's the name of the restaurant?" He said, "Taj Mahal." I said, "Do you know the name of the cook?" "Yeah, his name is Ahmed." I said, "Excuse me, I'm not going to eat it." Ahmed does not know how to turn ordinary food into prasad. But maybe he could be trained, but I'm sure he doesn't know right now. But he could be trained. Anyone could be trained. I was born a Christian. I was not born a Hindu, but I was trained to be a devotee, or at least I'm trying to be a devotee. And anyone can become a devotee of Krishna. There's no obstacles. It doesn't matter whether you're a low-class person, a high-class person, a middle-class person, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're educated or you're ignorant. Everyone can be trained in Krishna consciousness. No one is excluded. And this ceremony this pastime of the Lord specifically focuses on that point, that everyone, including the animals, including the trees, including the plants, they can all become Krishna conscious by keeping Krishna as the center of our focus in our life. So rather than having Joe Biden or President Trump or this one or that one or Putin or whoever, or some movie star or some baseball person or a football person or a basketball person as the center of your attention, Krishna should be the center of attention because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if you make Krishna as the center of your attention, then you become a wonderful person, full of compassion, full of patience, full of tolerance, full of love. And that is Krishna consciousness. And this is a festival of love. Everybody eats to their satisfaction. Everybody dances. Everyone chants. So this is our yoga. This is called Bhakti Yoga. It's based on chanting, dancing, and feasting. Not putting your foot behind your head and breathing through one nostril and living in a dank, dark cave. No. This is all about having fun and glorifying the Lord by chanting, dancing, and feasting. And if you have some patience, hearing Bhagavad Gita, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. These two literatures are the quintessential cream of the entire Vedic literature because they're specifically only about Krishna. And there's no material fruitive activity. In other words, if someone says, oh, we have to do Satyanarayana Puja, and you call a pundit, and in the beginning it says, repeat this, mama. Now, what does mama mean in Sanskrit? Who knows? Or Hindi? Yes, what does it mean? For me. To me, right? So that's not the purpose of puja. The purpose of puja or yajna is to please the Lord. But so why does the priest say mama? Because he makes money by performing self-interested pujas. He doesn't make money by worshiping Krishna. He makes money by saying, you got a backache, I got a mantra for it. You want your business to do better? I got a mantra for it. You want your kid to pass the SAT? I got a mantra for it. I got a mantra for anything you want. That is not devotional service. That's not bhakti. That's not even Hinduism, but it's practiced like that in the name of Hinduism. But what is actually puja is when you glorify the Lord. So tonight we're going to glorify the Lord. And therefore, when they started doing this, just to prove that they were not making a mistake, Krishna demonstrated that Govardhan is non-different than him by expanding a gigantic form of himself. He was only 7 years old. He was almost a toddler, but he expanded himself, but he was still there in a 7-year-old form, but he expanded a gigantic form of himself as big as the mountain, and people actually saw him respecting the offerings of the food. But when Krishna respects the food or eats the food, he does it by mantra, by the mantras of the brahmanas and the priests, because his senses are not like our senses. Each one of his senses can perform the function of any of the other senses. So he can hear from his eyes, he can eat with his ears, and etc. So he has a transcendental, unbelievably powerful, and unbelievably versatile body that none of us can emulate. But you have to hear about this regularly through the Srimad Bhagavatam to understand it. And the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita should be spoken by genuine devotees, not by upstarts who want to make money. The devotee is not interested in making money. The devotee is interested in giving knowledge and giving Krishna consciousness. So then people became convinced there's no difference between Govardhan and Krishna. Therefore, people worship what's called Govardhan Shila. If you go to Govardhan and a brahmana who lives in Govardhan gives you a rock, you can worship that rock as Govardhan Shila. And that's the mercy. And some people say, what is this craziness? You're worshiping a rock. Well, there's a big story behind it, and you're hearing it now. So, therefore, uh, Indra became very upset. What is this? This pipsqueak little kid? And he's stopping my puja? Who does he think he is? Okay, he's Krishna, but I want to test to see if he's actually God. So Indra summoned the Samvartaka clouds. These are huge. It's very similar to clouds that are coming in through the Pacific right now. It's a corridor of millions and millions and billions of pounds of water, and it's inundating Seattle and the Northwest right now. But it was much worse. The Samvartaka clouds are much, much worse than what we're seeing here. And for 7 days and nights, Indra inundated the entire area of Vrindavan, and everyone thought they were going to die. But this little boy, Krishna, who appears to be like an ordinary boy, but actually he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he picked up the entire mountain with his pinky. Now, if anyone ever says, like there's so many people in India that claim to be God. There are many man gods in India. One time, our Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, when somebody said to him, you know this one, he's an incarnation of God. He said, look, when God was only 7 years old, with his little pinky, he picked up Govardhan, a gigantic mountain that's 26 miles in circumference. This so-called God, he can't even pick up a table. So how can he be God? You see? So if you learn about Krishna, then you can see through all the phonies who are fooling people, claiming that they're God. Just because they do a little bit of magic, immediately they think they're God. So therefore, one who knows nothing will believe anything. But if you're educated, like for example, let's say, Prabhu, how many years did you go to school to get the job you have?
16.
You went 16 years, okay? So how many years do you think you should read Bhagavad Gita? Exactly right. You see, you go 16 years or 24 years to get a really good job, make $150,000, $180,000, and with stock options and all that, right? But did they ever teach you about Krishna and all that education? Never, not even one word. The most important thing by which you can attain real love, real affection, real liberation from the cycle of birth and death, and go back to God in your real eternal body that's not matter, but it's made of Sat Chitananda and Vigraha, the form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. That's who we actually are. That's what our soul is. Our soul is a person. Krishna also is a person. And the spiritual world is full of people who are liberated. So why would one want to stay in this world? Well, the purpose of the material world is to give us a chance to go back to the spiritual world where we came from. We voluntarily walked away from Krishna, and we voluntarily walk away from him every day because the cause is in the effect. But that can all be transferred back to our original state of pure goodness and pure love for the Lord with a transcendental body that's eternal. So, therefore, you must balance off all that junk material education with Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, you will be a failure in this life. At the moment of death, you'll be confused, and you have to take birth again and start all over. Birth, old age, disease, and death. This is a vicious cycle that we can liberate ourselves from. So tonight, we're going to have a joyful celebration of Govardhan Puja. Simultaneously, we have Giriraj. Is this Giriraj or is it? It's Shalagram. You should have Giriraj. Anyway, we have Shalagram Shila, which is also a rock, which is worship. It's a very special rock. It comes from the Gandaki River in Nepal, and it's non-different from Krishna also. So Prabhuji is going to do, Prabhuji is a real Brahmana, he's going to do the puja. And in the meantime, we're going to have what's called Damodar Astakam, because this is one of the things that you must do during this 5-day period of Diwali. Worship this special relationship of Krishna and his mother, Yasodamai. And we have candles that are lit, and you can come offer to the picture of Krishna and his mother, to the deities and also to Govardhan. And you see Krishna's form on top of the Govardhan hill. Okay, and then after that we'll do the circumambulation of the mountain, and then distribute all the sweets and all the food. Okay. Huh? Okay, so usually seniors go first, so don't give any candles to the kids. Don't give any candles to the kids. Can you hear me? Seniors are first. Seniors, persons that are 50 years or older, please go first, and then everybody else. Namamish. Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamanam. Yasoda Viyolu Kaladavamanam Param Justam Adyanta Tojutya Loka. Sit over here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Budam tamur netra yugmam vijatam Karam boja yugmena satanka netram. Muhuswasakam pachirekanka kanta Stita Graivam Damodaram Bhakti Badam. Chant. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, what? Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti Drikswalila Birananda Kunde Swagosam Mahajantyam Akyapayantam. Iti Drikswalila Bir Ananda Kunde Swagoshani Majantam Akyapayantam. Tadiye Sitage Surbhakta Jitatvam
Monak prematahastam satariti vande.
तदीयेषितागेषु भक्तजितात्वम् पुनः प्रेमास्तस्तं सतावृति वन्दे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Param deva moksham na mokshavadim va, na chanyam vineham vare sadabiha.
Varam deva moksham na mokshavadim va, na chanyam vrineham vare sadapiha.
Idam teva punata gopala balam, sada me manavastirastam kimanyai.
Idam teva purnata gopala balam, sada me manasya vir astam kim anye.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Idam te mukam bojam adyantanilai, Ritam kuntalastikdaraktascha gopyam.
Idam te mukham bojam atyantanile, Vritam kuntalai snigdharaktischa gopya.
Muhushchumbitam bimba rahaktam darame, Manasavirastam alam lakshaladai.
Muhuschumbitam bimbaraktadaram me, Manasya virastam alam lakshalabhe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Vasida Prabodhuka Jalabdi Magnam
Namo Deva Damodar Ananta Vishnu Prasida Prabho Dukha Jalabdi Magnam
Kipajristi Vishtiyati Dinam Patanu Gihane Samamajnam Ediyakshi Jisyan
Kripa Drishti Vrishyate Dinam Batano Grihane Shamamagyam Vedyakshi Drishya
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Kuvera Atmajo Badamudaiva Yatvat Tvaya Mochito Bhakti Bhajokito Cham
Kuveratmajau Badhamurtaiva Yadvat Tvaya mochitau bhakti bhajau kritauscha
Tata Prema Bhaktim Swahakame Prayacha Namokse Graho Mesti Damodareya
Tatha prema bhaktim swakham me prayacha Namokshe graho mesti damodareha
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Namaste Studamne Spuradipti Damne Tvadiyodarayata Vishwasadamne
Namaste Studamne Spuradipti Damne Tvadiyodarayata Vishwasya Damne
Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaya Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam
Namo Radhikaye Tvadiya Priyaye Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam
Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaya Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam
Namo Radhikaye Tvadiya Priyaye Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam
Namo Radhikaya Priyaya Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam
Namo Radhikaye Tvadiya Priyaye Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol.
Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo,
Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol,
Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Haribo,
Nitai Gaura Haribol, Haribol, Gaura Haribol, Gaur Haribol,
Nitai Gaura Haribo, Haribo,
Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribol,
Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo,
Nitai Gaura Haribol, Haribol, Gaura Haribol, Gaura Haribol,
Nitai Gaura Premanandi ki jai. Govardhan Puja ki jai.
Jai.
Namarata, where's the cow? Bring the cow here. So now we're going to introduce Ganga Devi, the young cow. She's very gentle, very sweet. If she passes stool and urine, don't be worried. It's purifying. Oh, 4 times already. That means she is very happy. Hare Krishna, Haribol Prabhu. So here's Ganga Devi. Haribol Ganga, how are you? Hare Krishna. So you're going to circumambulate like this with Ganga, okay? Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Bolo Jai 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 Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai Jai Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai Jai Bolo Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Karuna Sagara Kamalaya Nayaka Karuna Sagara Kamalaya Nayaka Kam Kama Baradari Gopala Kam Kama Baradari Gopala Krishna Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai 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 Krishna Mukunda Murari 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 Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Kaliya Mardana Kamsani Sudana, Kaliyangana, Kamsani Sudana, Kamalalaya Yada, Nayana Gopala, Kamalaya Yada, Nayana Gopala, Krishna Krishna Mukunda Murari, Bolo Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari. Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, 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 Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari. Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Gopi Janamana, Gopi Janamana, Mohana Vivapaka, Gopi Janamana, Mohana Vivapaka, Kuvala Yadala, Maya Gopala, Kuvala Yadala, Maya Gopala, Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari. Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, 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 Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari, Bolo Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari. Jai Jai Krishna Murari ki Jai. Shri Govardhan Maharaj, Maharaj, Tere Mate Mukut Viraj Rayo. Shri Krishna Govardhan Maharaj, Maharaj, Tere Mate Mukut Viraj Rayo. Shri Krishna Shri Govardhan Maharaj, Maharaj, Tere Mate Mukutta Viraj Rao. Shri Govardhan Maharaj, Maharaj, Tere Mate Mukutta Viraj Rao. Tope pan chade, topi bul chade, tope pan chade, topi bul chade, topi pan chade, bul chade. Topi pan chade, dud dud. pan chade, topi pula chade, topi chade, duda kidar, adidar, tere mate mukta viraj rahon, topi chade, duda kidar, hadar, tere mate mukta viraj rahon. Shri Govardhan Maharaj, Maharaj, tere mate mukta viraj raho. Shri
Maharaj, Maharaj, tere mate mukta viraj raho.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Keep playing. So now we're going to begin to distribute all the prasadam on Govardhan. So we're going to need some help. We need the dishes, the spoons, and the volunteers to come and help people serve the prasadam. Tell them to bring the cow over here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare.
Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hey, bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Hey,
Hare.
bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, you want to take her out? You want to take her out? Haribo, 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 Nita Gora, Haribo, Nita Gora, Haribo, 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 Nita Gora, Haribo, Nita Gora, Haribo, Gora Haribo, Nita Gora, Haribo, Nita Gora, Haribo. Haribo, Nita Gora, Nita Gora, Premanande ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Bolo
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bola Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitya Go Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gora Hari Bol, Nitya Gora Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Hari Bol.
Nitya Gora Hari Jai. Something broke. Jayo Jayo Radha Krishna Yugala Milan, Arati Karo Lalita Di Sakhi Gan.
Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna, Arati karo lalita di sakhi ghan.
Jayo Jayo Radha Krishna Yugala Milan, Arati Karo Lalita Di Sakhi Gan.
Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Jugala Milana, Arati karo lalita di sakhi ghan.
Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Jaya Vrindavan, Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Yugala Milan, Arati Karo Lalita Di Sakhi Gan.
Krishna Yugala Milan, Arati karo lalita di sakhi ghan.
Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Yugala Milan, Arati Karo Lalita Di Sakhi Gan.
Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Yugala Milan, Arati karo lalita di sakhi ghan.
Madana Mohana Rupa Jibanga Sodara, Pitambara Sikhi Pucha Choda Mohara.
Madana Mohana Rupa Tribhanga Sundara, Pitambar Sikhi Pucha Chuda Manohara.
Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Yugala Milan, आरती करो वे ललिता जी सखी गान बोलो
जय जय राधा कृष्ण जुगल मिलन आरती करो हे ललिता जी सखी गान
ललिता माधव वामे वृषभानु कन्ये सुनीला वसन गौरी रूपे गुणे धन्या
ललिता माधव वामे वृषभानु कन्या सुनीला वसन गौरी रूपे गुणधन्या
जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलाना आरती करो वे ललिता जी सखी गाना
जय जय राधा कृष्ण जुगल मिलन आरती करो हे ललिता जी सखी गान
नाना विधा अलंकार कोरी जलमाला हरि मानो विमोहन वदन उज्ज्वला
नानाविध अलंकार कोरे जलमाला हरि मनो विमोहन वदन उज्ज्वला
जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलन आरती करो वे ललिता जी सखी गान
जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलन आरती करो वे ललिता सखी गान
विशाखा कादि सखी गाना नाना रंगे गया प्रियम नाम सखी जत चमर दुलाया
विशाखादि सखी गण नाना रागे गाया प्रिय नर्म सखी जात चामर दुलाया
प्रिय नर्मद सखी जत चमर दुलाया विशाखादि सखी गाना नाना रंगे गाया प्रिय नर्म सखी जत चमर दुलाया
विशाखादि सखी गण नाने रागे गाया प्रिय नर्म सखी जात चामर दुलाया
जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलन आरती करो वे ललिता जी सखी गाना
जय जय राधा कृष्ण जुगल मिलन आरती करो हे ललिता जी सखी गान
श्री राधा माधव पद सरसी जासे पकति विनोद सखी पदे सुखे पासे
श्री राधा माधव पद सरसी जासे भक्ति विनोद सखी पदे सुखे भासे
जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलन आरती करो वे ललिता जी सखी गाना
जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलन आरती करो वे ललिता जी सखी गान
Hare Krishna कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे
हे
हरे
बोलो Hare Krishna कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलन आरती करो वे ललिता जी सखी गाना
जय जय राधा कृष्ण जुगल मिलन आरती करो हे ललिता जी सखी गान
जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलन आरती करो वे ललिता जी सखी गाना
जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलन आरती करो वे ललिता जी सखी गान
जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलन आरती करो वे ललिता जी सखी गाना
जय जय राधा कृष्ण जुगल मिलन आरती
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Ram Hare
Hey
Hare
bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Bolo Hari Bol Gora Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol Nitai Gora Premanandi Ki Jai Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandilal Radhe Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandilal Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandilal Radhe Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandilal Krishna Radhe Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandilal Hey 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 Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal. Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal. Mero Yasoda Kolal, Mero Yasoda Kolal, Yasoda Kolal, Mero Yasoda Kolal, Mero Yasoda Kolal, Mero Yasoda Kolal, Yasoda Kolal, Mero Yasoda Kolal. Mero Nanda Ji Kolal, Mero Nanda Ji Kolal, Mero Nanda Ji Kolal, Mero Nanda Ji Kolal. Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandlal, Radhe Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandlal. Krishna
Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandlal, Radhe Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandlal.
Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal.
Gopal Nandlal, Gopal Nandlal, Gopal Nandlal.
Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal. Mero Choto So Gopal, Mero Choto So Gopal, Choto So Gopal, Mero Choto So Gopal, Mero
Chota so Gopal, Mero Chota so Gopal, Chota so Gopal, Mero Chota so Gopal.
Mero Madana Gopal, Mero Madana Gopal, Mero Madana Gopal, Mero Madana Gopal. Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandlal, Radhe Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandlal.
Krishna Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandlal, Radhe Govinda Govinda Gopal Nandlal.
Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal.
Gopal Nandlal, Gopal Nandlal, Gopal Nandlal.
Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal. Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal, Hey Gopal Nandlal. Mero Radha Vallabhlal, Mero Radha Vallabhlal, Radha Vallabhlal, Mero Radha Vallabhlal.
Mero Radha Vallabhlal, Mero Radha Vallabhlal, Radha Vallabhlal, Mero Radha Vallabhlal.
Mero Kunja Bihari Lal, Mero Kunja Bihari Lal, Mero Kunja Bihari Lal, Mero Kunja Bihari Lal.
Mero
मेरो कुंज बिहारी लाल, मेरो कुंज बिहारी लाल, मेरो कुंज बिहारी लाल, मेरो कुंज बिहारी लाल. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare.
Mero Yasoda Kolal, Mero Yasoda Kolal, Mero Yasoda Kolal, Mero Yasoda Kolal. Mero Nanda Ji Kolal, Mero Nanda Ji Kolal, Mero Nanda Ji Kolal, Mero Nanda Ji Kolal. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Bol Hari Bol. Nitai
Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Bol
Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Premanandi Ki Jai, Govardhan Puja Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Hari 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 Bol. Hari Bol. So Govardhan Puja is the happy festival because it includes everybody. No one is excluded. Did you get some prasadam from him? And everything is all right. So we'll stop right there because tomorrow is another day with Mangalarti. Now everyone should come tomorrow for Mangalarti. Right? Who's going to come? Raise your hand. Whoa, I don't see your hand. I don't see Samuk. He hasn't raised it. Okay. Just raise your hands. Both hands. Hey. Both hands. Haribo. Okay. Okay, we'll see who's here tomorrow morning. That'll determine who's a man, who's not a man. Haribo. Thank you very much. All glories to Govardhan Puja ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.